All right, Jake Roos just spoke on the Georgia show Sunday night about Brock Bowers' injury, what it could be, and now we know. High ankle, going to have that tightrope. And sorry, I got a little bit of a delay here. We're going to see just how long it takes Brock to recover from this. And I think we both believe he's not from planet Earth, so maybe he'll only be out a couple weeks. Best case scenario, he's back, somewhere in that Tennessee stretch. Realistically, based on what other people go through, you're looking at maybe somewhere around the SEC championship game.
Yeah. And as I said last night on the Georgia show, no positive way to spin this, man. You just can't. It's a complete net negative, no matter how much you slice it. Yes, it will call up, other guys to expand their role and expand their game and perform to a higher level. But by the same token, there's just not a lot of replacing 19. He's a special guy and has been since the moment he got to Athens and made his presence felt. So, I think that with Bowers, it's like you said, you never know about the timelines on these things. And what's weird is like the thing that came to mind for me was what we're seeing with Aaron Rodgers right now. It's like coming off of that Achilles, and then suddenly you see him out there. He's walking around without a boot or crutches, and he's throwing the ball and all of that. Modern medicine is what it is, man. And with different guys and how they approach this stuff, it can be different. But his body's going to have to keep the score on this one. It's going to have to tell him when he's ready and when he's not. So I think that it's an incredibly tough blow, not just for Georgia, but especially for Brock, who is a guy who's given his all to this team, has meant so much to this team. Probably wasn't going to win the Heisman, but was probably on track to get an invite to New York or something of that nature. He was going to be in the receiving votes category. So just sad all around. There's no other way you can frame it, really.
Yeah. Y'all keep your comments coming. If you have any questions about this surgery and, what it means, fire away. Any concerns or your general thoughts. Indy Clip says RoboCop, Robo Brock.
I like it.
I like that too. I like his chances if he's actually RoboCop. He might be. Georgia Boy 30. I hate Brock is out. It's definitely going to hurt us. Indy Clip with another take here. Brock is going to shock us all and come back not only sooner than we know, but also back for a senior season. Copium. Yeah, keep your copium on a steady drip today, guys, because it's not getting any easier in the next few weeks. Palmer Tom's welcome in. Marlon says, next man up. Palmer, what did we learn from or let's take a look at what we learned from Georgia's SID. Leland Barrow, great human, emailed us and said, Brock Bowers sustained a high ankle sprain during the Vanderbilt game in Nashville over the weekend. Surgery will be performed today, October 16th, to stabilize the ankle, and a full recovery is anticipated. Obviously, it's the next man up. You got to have more people. And we'll see just how Georgia plans to do that, either at the tight end position or just continuing to distribute the ball. Any given game, 10 to 12 different people catch the ball for Georgia. So you can't say that the Dogs totally rely on Brock, but a lot of those guys are open because other people are covering Bowers.
Yeah, no, absolutely. To Nathaniel's question here of how long does it take to return? 4 to 6 weeks is kind of the standard for a tightrope ankle procedure, for a high ankle sprain. Notable ones. Georgia fans may remember Tua Tagovailoa had one after the 2018 SEC championship game against Georgia. He returned for a semifinal game against Oklahoma. I think it was 28 days, almost exactly after the fact. Just this season, Georgia has had a couple. Here's the difference here is they've got Lawson Lucky would be a good example. He's somebody that had a tightrope ankle procedure, but it took him a little bit of time to get back in. And I don't even know if he's fully 100%, now. But it took him as a true freshman a little bit more time to get back involved, I think, than it would Brock Bowers. Amarius Mims had it. So going back to Lucky, he had it after the first spring scrimmage after the first fall scrimmage, and returned, made his season debut last week against Kentucky. So week 6, so that would be 8 weeks, but he was dressed out and ready to play sooner than that. So he traveled with them to Auburn a week before that. And I cannot remember if he was back on the field dressed and ready to roll for UAB, but so Marius Mims had it, he had it after the South Carolina game. He has missed UAB, Auburn, Kentucky, and Vanderbilt. What's his timeline for return? He would probably be closer to return now than Lucky was at the 4-week point. So 4 to 6 weeks. Long answer short, 4 to 6 weeks is what it takes to return from this kind of a surgery. But Brock is a superhuman, as we've all seen. So that's the unknown element to all this is, does he heal quicker than the normal human being? Because there is nothing about Brock Bowers that is normal. To your question about replacing him on the field, Lab McConkey, I think, and Dominic Lovett. I wrote a piece today and didn't know exactly that Bowers was going to be having the surgery, but we knew that he was probably going to be missing some time. And I said, look, this is the right time for those two to be playing their best football. Their emergence is going to be big without Brock Bowers. Mentioned Lucky with the surgery. Lucky in his return back, he's going to be big for Georgia. Oscar Delp is obviously going to be big as he moves from that number 2 tight end spot to the number 1 spot. Are they going to ask him to do the same things that they asked Bowers? Probably not. And they're probably not going to ask Lawson Lucky to do as much as they were Oscar Delp in that 2nd tight end spot. But that's, if you're going 12 personnel with 2 tight ends, that's probably who you're looking at. But I think, and Jake and I have discussed this, Rusty and I have discussed this, I think that this comes at a time, where you are probably going to start seeing more 11 personnel, 1 tight end sets. You're not going to rely as heavily on the 2 tight ends. So those receivers become even more important.
Eddie from Ackworth, comment of the stream here. Unfortunately, this is not a next man up. There's not another Brock in all of college football. I think that's fair. The one thing I'll say, I'm not saying that Lawson Lucky is the next Brock Bowers, but Brock Bowers was needed in his first game against Clemson. Darnell was banged up, Darnell Washington, and Brock went out there and shocked the world and then had the play against UAB to put himself on the map and let everybody know that he's a freak. And I think what we know about Lawson Lucky, Roos, he's a freak too. I'm not saying that he can go out there and replicate what Brock has done, but if he's continuing to get healthy, especially over this bye week, who's to say that he can't go out there and have a similar impact on some of these games?
Yeah, no, that's not fair to put on anybody. You can't ask anyone to be Brock Bowers. But, some of the markers that we were hearing early about Lucky seem to suggest that he was kind of on track career-wise or skill-wise to be able to replicate some of those things, which was what was so encouraging about what you were hearing. He's a willing blocker, great hands, he was able to get down the field, make guys miss. Just a lot of those similar things you heard around 19. It's a tough situation for that to be kind of foisted upon a freshman, especially. But like you said, Bowers did it. He's a superhuman, though, so I don't know that you can expect the same. To me, where you make up this ground is in the pass-catching game with the wide receivers. I think that Lovett, Thomas, McConkey, as he's continued to work himself back in and be healthy, is a key part of this as well. To me, those are the guys that I'm looking for the expanded role from. When you're talking about replacing a blocker, Chad Lindbergh, we talked about him last night, has been throwing on a tight end's number and getting in there if they need an extra guy on the front. So, there's some of that going on as well. I'm hesitant to turn to these young guys just yet. Oscar Delp will be a key part of this moving forward, but it's fair to say that Oscar Delp was already a key part of Georgia's offense. He was playing a lot of snaps this whole season. So, it's not like you're replacing Brock Bowers with Oscar Delp. You got to find another guy to go along with Delp too.
Yep.
So It's not a plug and play situation. It never was going to be. But like I said, to me, where you turn next is those pass catchers, those wideouts, the guys on the outside. How do you expand their role? And also, too, how does this change things for Carson Beck? What does it mean for him? Where does he turn? Who becomes his outlet that Bowers so clearly was? I think that those are all going to be very important questions moving forward.
If you missed the Georgia show on Sunday night, I did a breakdown on not just the plays that Bowers was on the field. I didn't get that granular with it, but just before the Bowers injury and after, Georgia was averaging 7.6 yards per play. That's rushing and passing. And they had 2 touchdowns against Vandy. Without Brock on the field, it was 6.5 yards per play. You had 2 touchdowns there too. You also had an interception, and you had 3 field goals. So in the yardage metrics, maybe there's some outliers there. You had a 62-yard run from Dejan Edwards, and you had a 57-yard run from Cash Jones. And Vandy is awful at stopping the run. So against a team that's a little bit more stout on defense, maybe those numbers are a little bit more significant. For me, it's Georgia's red zone offense. How is Georgia's offense going to look in the red zone without Brock Bowers there to catch a pass, go on an end around, block, draw coverage from somebody else? That's, to me, going to be the biggest concern here as you try to figure out what your offense looks like, because you're not replacing him. You're just going to have to scheme up differently, and Beck's going to have to get more comfortable with guys that aren't Brock Bowers, because he was very comfortable against Auburn, and that's how you won the game. One more thing I'll say, though, Georgia has benefited the last 2 seasons in national championship runs from big injuries to their opposition. Jameson Williams and Bama and Mechie too, and Marvin Harrison Jr. in the Peach Bowl. And I know that Georgia fans didn't want to hear those injury excuses from other teams. You can't be making the injury excuses now. It goes both ways. Is Georgia deep enough to overcome it? I think they are. I don't think that it's going to look the same. It's not going to be as pretty. But as you said last night, Roos, if there is a good time for this to happen, it's right now.
Yeah, I mean, the health is getting right. I mean, essentially you're going into the bye week, which is a freebie for everybody. And then you're getting, Lad McConkey worked back into this thing. Lawson Lucky's been seeing more of it. There's the potential that Amarius Mims is a factor in this offense again come next week. So there's an opportunity here, I think, for Georgia to be as healthy as it's been in a long time. Look, if you'd been dealing with this same thing 2 weeks into the season, you may very well have dropped the game against Auburn. I think that that's possible. That there's that kind of threat that Brock Bowers created and allowed for at that point was very much needed. And I'm not saying it won't be again, but what I'm saying is I think that from a full team perspective, Georgia is in the best shape it's been all year to incur an injury of this caliber. But people keep saying on the board that I'm trying to spin it. I'm not. Like I said, it's a complete net negative. There's no way to say anything positive about it. You're worse off for not having Brock Bowers. All I'm saying is the team is in better shape to handle it than they were 2 to 3 weeks ago.
You can kiss the 1,000-yard receiving yard season goodbye. Heisman chances goodbye. Georgia needs Brock Bowers back. Brock Bowers does not need those individual accolades. Brock Bowers will be perfectly fine without it. And his legacy at Georgia is cemented whether or not he gets back on the field this season. But I think as we've all said and heard, I think that this guy is got the mentality that he's going to do whatever it takes to get back on the field this season. I fully expect to see 19 out there again. But this sucks for him. This sucks for Georgia. It sucks for Georgia fans. It sucks for college football because Brock Bowers is an incredible player.
Yeah, I mean,
that was just a real honest take, Palmer. This sucks is really the best way to sum all of this up. I would agree.
It sucked for us covering a bye week with now Brock Bowers, being the national storyline. Huh. Let's throw us in the pity party.
There are no bye weeks, especially not now. Yeah, I mean, Brock going down, there's no way you can spin this. But Palmer, I want to revisit your enthusiasm there that Brock will definitely play. And I know that he is the standard for Georgia football right now. The work standard, the practice standard, never takes a play off. There are people already saying if he's able to come back, he'd be crazy to come back and risk his NFL career because of re-aggravating this thing. From everything we know about him, as of today on October 16th, I will be surprised if he does not come back. And Todd Gurley was a different deal. He wasn't hurt when he came back from his suspension, but he was rusty, and he tore his ACL against Auburn. So I understand the concern from people who are on the outside looking in on this thing, saying that Brock shouldn't come back. I would be stunned if he doesn't today. Maybe maybe his team gets in his ear and, they're going to evaluate it. They're not just going to not talk about it. Don't think that. Don't think that Brock's not going to have a conversation with somebody about whether or not he should do it. I just don't ultimately believe that he will choose not to.
Yeah, no, I'm with you too. As far as the NFL stuff goes, the thing that makes this different is I don't know that you can make an ankle sprain worse by continuing to play on it. If this was a knee and it was some sort of structural thing, maybe you've got a little bit more concern about, the longevity. But an ankle, let's say Brock Bowers suffers an ankle sprain in the national championship game in January. He's got plenty of time to recover before the combine.
Sure.
Brock Bowers doesn't need the combine. Brock Bowers doesn't, need to show anything. His draft status, the interviews will obviously help him and that process. But also Brock Bowers being the player that he is and the position that he plays and the freak that he is for the position, he doesn't have to worry about his NFL status to me. I don't think that there's a risk of further injuring this because it's something that wouldn't be a big deal if Georgia wasn't in the middle of its season. An ankle sprain heals. That'll happen.
Yeah.
It just takes time. Georgia doesn't have
We are not
time.
doctors. I do want to have a disclaimer. We're not healthcare
We are not
professionals.
doctors here. But I feel
But I hear what you're saying, Palmer.
I feel confident saying an ankle sprain heals. It just takes time. Georgia doesn't have time because it's in the midst of a season and about to go into a 3-game stretch against ranked opponents sandwiched by two of its biggest rivals. They don't have time for this to happen. That's why it's a big deal, not because it's something that's going to dramatically affect the rest of his career.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm completely with you on the NFL aspect of it. Like, the tape says what the tape says about Brock Bowers. All you got to do is turn it on. Everybody knows about the toughness. He's played through injury before. I'm sure if he could with this one, he would. The big thing to me, the big driver is I would be a bit surprised if Brock Bowers wanted his career at Georgia to be over on a almost nothing tackle on the sideline at Vanderbilt. It's just so unfitting. At least Todd Gurley got a chance to come back and play against Auburn. That was the thing. This is it, to me, it's about a legacy thing. And the thing is, his legacy is cemented whether or not he ever plays another snap. But he is the kind of guy that we've always heard throughout his career that, he takes stuff like that seriously. The University of Georgia means a lot to him. It's been a huge part of it for him. And, I think that he's one of those guys who couldn't be more thrilled with the decision that he made to come be a Bulldog. But I just have, like I said, to me, that's where it stems from, is the idea that I have a hard time believing that Brock Bowers goes out like that. I don't know. It's yeah.
So again, not doctors here, but let's get into the speculation of it. All three of us agree that we think that he'll be back. When do y'all expect to see him back on the field? Do you expect it?
Now you're asking like doctor questions. I can't project that. I would hope.
Just the speculation though.
I would hope by Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, if the timetable's 4 to 6 weeks, and we believe, let's say he has the, knocking on wood for him, the perfect surgery. It's like less than a half of an hour procedure. Okay, they just go in there. I don't even know why it's called a tightrope. You'd have to explain that to me with pictures on a flashcard, like I'm in kindergarten. I don't know why they call it that. I imagine there's some sort of rope involved. I don't know. But they go in there, they fix the ankle up, they keep it together and help it stabilize and help them recover. If the timetable's 4 to 6 weeks for a normal person, then I would say I would take the under on that. 4 to 5 weeks maybe for Brock. I don't know. I mean, that is, to me, where the difference will be seen in Brock Bowers versus your average human, let alone average athlete. I'd say 4 to 5 weeks, man. I mean, if all goes to schedule, the challenge in that time is who's going to set the standard now for Georgia at practice. He was the leader with his work ethic, the Michael Jordan of the team. He wasn't going out there and hitting guys in the face at practice, as far as I know, but he showed everybody what it takes to be a dog in more ways than one. Who's going to step up and do that now? And I'm not saying they didn't already have it, but you're not going to have Brock Bowers doing it now. So Georgia's team's going to go one of two ways. They're going to say, oh, no, we don't have our guy anymore. We don't know what to do. Or we're going to see how well the team's connected. And everything we know about the team is that they're still very well-conditioned mentally and physically. They don't have a lot of stupid penalties. They're a young team, but they're not beating themselves that way. So who's going to step up and do it? And who's going to rally the team and show them, this is how we work now. Brock's not here for a few weeks. All right, let's take it on. Let's go play for him, and let's honor him with how we play. And I think Georgia could do that. You can't replace him with his athletic gifts, but Georgia's had quite a few injuries already this season that they've overcome in different ways. This is just the latest one, and it's the biggest one.
Well, and he's going to have a chance, too, to play that Nolan Smith role from last year. He's going to be the guy on the sideline. If Brock Bowers can't be giving it to you on the field, I guarantee you he's going to be giving you everything he's got standing over there on the sideline, coaching guys along, cheering them on. Anything, any way he can contribute, he will. And I think that's just a testament to who he is, what kind of person he is. And also, too, that goes into watching Nolan do it and the difference that it made and the ability to rally the troops that gave Georgia. So I think it's huge. I think that, if this had to happen, I'm just glad it wasn't something catastrophic. If you got to have an injury, this is probably the best injury you could possibly have. You can't play through it, but if all the non-play throughable injuries, I'm just thankful Brock Bowers will, keep everything intact, be able to live a normal life, and go see all of his dreams accomplished aside from this. So it's like Palmer said, it sucks for Georgia, and there's nothing positive about it, but he'll be over there. And who leads this team? Like you said, Wes, I think that's a really good point. He set the standard at practice. He was the guy who took every rep 1,000% every single time. They had to pull him back, you hope some of that is spilled over into other guys, and you hope somebody's ready to take that role on. Maybe it's Carson Beck as your quarterback. That would be, that would be huge for Georgia. I'm not saying that he's not doing that already. Just, that's no slight at Carson Beck, but to do it to the level Brock Bowers does it, I don't know that there have been many people in college football who ever have. So we're talking different echelons kind of stuff here. Rusty Mansell mentioned, Nick Chubb on the board and talking about Brock Bowers. So, there just aren't a lot of guys like that in the world. And I think that's pretty telling. I think that
I want to take on a couple more comments here before we wrap up. Sammy here, we got the comment pulled up. Can the defense step up because they're going to have to with teams having a vertical passing game? Who will step up in vertical passing game for Georgia, I guess, because Beck was not the same. Well, I want to just buy the numbers. I know the optics aren't as fun when you're watching it on the field, but Georgia is number 6 in overall defense right now in the country. And when you look at passing yards allowed, Georgia is number 11 in the country in passing yards allowed. And I know that they're not as locked down. They don't have as much pressure as you probably want or as you're used to seeing. But Georgia's defense is still doing a phenomenal job when you compare it to the rest of the country. They've given up some points on short fields and in the red zone, but Georgia's got to stop turning the ball over. I mean, that's the concern. Stop turning the ball over, and Georgia's defense looks even better than it already does. So I'm not as concerned about that just in a vacuum. Yes, against your opposition like Florida, Mizzou, Ole Miss, Tennessee, they're going to test you. But can Georgia answer on offense? I still think they can. Just got to see it happen.
Well, and as we were talking about the practice aspect of it and the guys that bring that challenge to everybody at practice, my mind went to Javon Bullard on that defensive side of the football. They've got a couple of guys on that side of the ball that represent this team well. I would say Cedric Van Pran on the offense, but the defensive side of the ball, they've got some guys, and I do think that they could take this as a little bit of a, hey, there's a little bit more pressure on us now because we've got to do our job so that, and carry a little bit extra weight because Brock isn't out there for the offense. And, that's not to say that Georgia's offense is going to just completely, go to shambles, without Brock Bowers, but I would expect some sort of a drop off. I don't think that that's crazy to say. Brock Bowers has been the biggest piece of their offense.
Yeah.
That does mean that the defense is going to have to step up. And I would look to those guys to take that challenge on.
It would be hilarious, though, really. The funniest outcome of this would be if Georgia just turned into some offensive juggernaut, like this was like unlocked something with inside of them.
You've already lost your biggest threat running the football with Branson Robinson before the season even started. You've lost your best offensive lineman, Namarius Mims, and now you've lost your best pass catcher. So, yes, if you're keeping score at home, that's a lot. That's a lot to overcome. Georgia's already overcome it, though, to a certain extent. And I'm just saying this within reason. You're going to have a drop-off, but you're not going to plummet. You're not going to fall through the face of the earth. It's just going to be a little bit different. Guys, thank you for hopping on here. Thank you for all the comments. Yes, Dylan Bell needs a bigger role. Delp, Lucky, and Sperlin have to step up. Everybody does. Everybody has to step up now. It's time to find out what you're made of without Brock Bowers. That's a hard thing to stomach. And it's hard to stomach, too, that your offense has not been a complete picture at any point this season. Kendall Milton starts to look healthy. He gets back. You lose Brock Bowers. I mean, that's just the way the season's gone for Georgia. A lot of young guys are going to find out now how to play big boy football because it's up to them. It's their job now. And it's up to Carson Beck to lead the team. You don't have your most reliable weapon. How do you continue to distribute the ball? And on Mike Bobo, how do you scheme things up without 19 in the mix? A lot of questions. Randy Hillman was also very optimistic in saying that Brock Bowers will come back for a senior season. Randy, if that happens, I will tell everyone that you said it first. Brock's a different human being. He really doesn't like the spotlight. He's not looking for fame. He just wants to be the best he can be. He will return. Barry Watkins says Delptober is loading. Something's got to be loading, man. Something's got to be loading. Appreciate y'all. We will have you covered over at DawgsHQ.com. Premium updates as we continue to follow this and not just follow Brock, but follow the guys who are replacing them. We're plugged into practice. We'll let you know $1 for 1 month of premium access over at DawgsHQ.com on our message board. Pray for us as we are herding the cats over on our message board who are having their own individual crises about this. We will get through this together, Dogs fans. We will get through this together. I have no doubt about it. Roos, Palmer, thank you very much. Talk to y'all soon. Y'all have a great week. The world is not over. It's not done. Brock Bowers is still breathing air. He's still with us, okay? And he's going to be back. So don't panic. We'll see you.